Welcome to Colorful Journeys of Success. Clare Mullin, producer, host, and author of Color Wheeling for Success, explores with her guests the stages of success in their lives. This show highlights leaders, teachers, coaches, mentors, and even parents who are role models who help change our world. How have you succeeded, and who was your teacher and inspiration? Now, who are the people you teach and inspire? Listen to and watch our fascinating guests as they share colorful stories of success and how they help inspire. Now, here's Clare, the color wheeling lady and our host.
Welcome to Colorful Journey of Success. Thanks so much for joining us, because tonight we have a very exciting show. In fact, we're going to do something kind of like different tonight. We're going to do a little switch. I'm the guest. I'm not the interviewer. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to our interviewer tonight. Her name is Arlynne Diamond. Arlynne, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for letting me do this,
I'm
Claire.
going to kind of like feel a little strange, but I'm always asking the questions.
I know, this is role reversal. So for those of you that are paying attention, this is really going to be a role reversal. I'm going to be interviewing Clare. Clare, you interview so many people so graciously all of the time that I think it's time to turn the tables on you. So what I want to do today is share how multifaceted you are. I mean, I was so amazed when I was in your home recently to remember, actually, all of the different things that you do. So I want to focus not so much on the injury, although your audience knows that you've suffered a brain injury. We'll talk about it a little. But I really want to focus on this remarkable woman that you are. For those of you that don't know, when I was in her home, she dances. She makes her own costumes. Here are examples of her costumes. She's a gourmet cook, and on and on and on. So share with us. Start from before the accident. Tell your audience, tell me, what were you doing professionally? Who were you before this terrible thing happened to you?
My goodness. The three faces of Clare,
The three faces of Eve, yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, I was a designer, as I am now, but I was designing something very, very different. In fact, I was designing a lot of things. I was designing the ball gowns and for competition ballroom dancing, and I was into the ballroom dancing, and I loved it. And so I designed the gowns and the costumes, and these are just
a little sampling of
just a couple of them. But it was the costumes, and that was always so much a passion of mine. I designed the system that I used for the property management, because I was in charge of my own property management.
So that was what you were doing professionally, was property management primarily.
And for my own rentals. So, and then designing my own home. And so I was always kind of like designing and creating.
But it's in an aesthetic sense. It's largely aesthetics. And I know that one of the things that we share in common is this love of color. We were just kidding around about our nail polish, but truly we share a love of color. Yes.
You showed the art.
We did not do this on purpose.
Oh
But I noticed you wearing your dancing shoes. So tell us a little bit about your dancing, because I remember seeing you dance, as a matter of fact, and more than once, as a matter of fact. So and I notice you've got these are from dancing, aren't they? Your rewards?
One trophy is for dancing, and the other trophy is for public speaking.
Ah, okay.
So that was after the accident, believe it or not. But, okay, the dancing. You know, my mother's took me dancing when I was in the 8th grade. So I started learning ballroom dancing in the 8th grade.
Wow.
And so I've always been dancing or doing something on stage, in a sense, and studied fashion design and costume design, and working with theater groups, which was so much fun in San Francisco, because we designed the sets and costumes to match the script. So I just, you know, through my life, I was always designing something.
You and my mother would have gotten along famously, because her background is akin. She was a dancer, she was a designer, she did windows and costumes and all kinds of other things. Okay, so all of this was your past, and then you had this terrible accident. Tell us about the accident.
Well, one morning I was headed down to lose some weight at the gym, And what I remember was taking a shower after working out. And that's all I remember. The next thing that I remember was I was sitting partially dressed on a bench in the locker room, being questioned by some woman in a white shirt. It was kind of like a blur. Everything was just so blurry. And so, in any event, someone drove my car, someone drove me to the emergency hospital, and where I was diagnosed with concussion. So I don't remember walking from the shower to the locker room. All I know is I was there. I had sustained a traumatic brain injury, TBI, traumatic brain injury, and it's changed my life.
Was it obviously wasn't diagnosed that first day, because that first day they thought you had just concussed. But you were telling me before that when you got home, you have no recollection of how you landed on your couch, of who fed you, of any of those kinds of things. So typically with a concussion, you would have remembered a lot of that, maybe not all of it, but certainly more than you do. So at what point after that day did they actually come to grips with the fact that you had sustained a serious injury?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Because one of the problems with TBI, traumatic brain injury, is short-term memory, the loss of short-term memory. So I was grasping to try and remember. I could remember things before the accident, but I couldn't remember things after. So it was, I remember the pain that I had in my head, and I remember the bruise on top of my head that swelled the size of a golf ball practically. And I just remember so much confusion and just living in kind of a haze. I don't remember cooking. I don't remember, actually the other day I had a little Post-it, and after I finished my breakfast, I literally wrote down everything that I fixed for breakfast. Every step along, all I had was coffee and toast and something, fruit and things like that. But I was able to write down every single thing that I had cooked. This was just recently, whereas I could not after the accident.
So when I first met you, you were still dancing, not professionally, not competitively,
I had to give that up.
Yeah, you were, but you were socially dancing. You were dancing. I've seen you dance.
Okay, well, for about,
you may not remember it, but
6 months after the injury, I wanted to go back and dance, and I lost my balance again, and I fell backwards and hit my head.
Oh, okay. I did
the
not.
back
I
of my
did not
head.
know that.
And
Yeah.
so I went back into the tunnel. I called it the tunnel. I learned to live in a tunnel, and to think very positively, I thought that over a period of time that you recover, and you kind of come out of a tunnel, the dark tunnel, into the light. And what I realized recently that, in a sense, it was a kind of a safe place to be. And the reason I use the term tunnel is because I couldn't really communicate. Symptoms of TBI, not able to formulate sentences because you can't pull the words together. And a lot of confusion, just a lot of confusion. People wouldn't understand. I looked exactly the same.
I was going to say, when I met you, which is when I was doing that professional development workshop, and you were in the infancy of your program, your color program, and you were starting to write a book. And I remember just really encouraging you to write the book. But at that time...
But that had to be, that could not have been right. That had to be like about 2 years after.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Right.
But you still had verbal hesitancies. When you spoke, there was still sometimes, and I'm a trained professional, so probably nobody noticed, but I did. There were a certain amount of hesitancies that were still apparent. At some point, I mean, you are so remarkable, Claire. At some point, you joined Toastmasters.
Yes.
And that was, I think, one of the things that you did to treat yourself. When was that?
I don't remember a year.
But approximately, when was that? Was it several years after the injury?
It was probably about 3 years.
Okay.
And I initially, because I was having a hard time speaking to people, I first went to Dale Carnegie.
Ah.
Well, there were 3 hospitals involved.
Okay.
And then SBI, which is Services for Brain Injured.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left SBI, in my mind, I decided that SBI to me was going to be success beyond injury.
Oh, I love it.
It was a horrible time in my life, in a sense, where I was just kind of like so closed. And so then I was sent over to De Anza College Disability Section.
Oh, I didn't know they had one. Okay.
Yeah, they do. And I was tested there again. And when I left, I had been through this experience enough years, enough time to realize so many people would look at me and they had no idea what was going on in my head. And that there were other people that sustained traumatic brain injuries, and I needed to give back, in a sense. I needed to write about it, write a research paper. So I went to the registration and said, I want somebody to help me write a research paper about an experience I've had. So they gave me my own professor, teacher, whatever, for 1 semester, and she took me step by step by step through writing a research paper, and it was simplified, obviously. And the title of it was The Miracle of the Healing Mind, Turning a Disability into an Ability and Then a Career. So I swore that, my goal was to recover and then turn it into a career and then give back, because so many people helped me, but I have so many stories. And I think that the story of the Post-its, that saved my life, because that's what I'm involved with now. And I remember writing little reminders on Post-its, yellow Post-its, and I had so many Post-its all over the place that I had to sort them out. So that was the day the color wheeling program was designed.
And you had started that before I met you, actually.
Okay.
Okay. And so
our timing is a little off.
Yeah, probably,
okay.
But that's, I don't know, I have old age memory problems. No traumatic brain injury, just old age. But when I met you, okay, there was so much you were doing. I think you'd already started Toastmasters. I think you were already involved with it. I noticed that you've also won a public speaking award. Is that through Toastmasters?
That's through Toastmasters.
And so I think several people don't understand the hierarchy of Toastmasters. So very, very quickly, what level had you achieved that gave you that?
Well, I finally achieved DTM, which is Distinguished Toastmaster.
Distinguished Toastmaster, okay.
But it took a lot of work on my part. I was so motivated to recover. When I left SBI, Services for Brain Injured, I swore I didn't want to be that way the rest of my life. And I had to work so hard to recover. I knew that I had to save myself.
Well, you certainly have worked hard, because I'm looking at some of the things that are behind you, without you having to turn around. But because of your use of color, you have there a wardrobe organizer. So you've created for yourself a system that enables you to find quickly what you're looking for. Down here you have the rudiments of what was your color wheel, the start of this whole kind of the beginning. And here you have this incredible binder, which is where you are today with all of this.
Right.
Right. And at some point we are going to get to publishing, aren't we, Claire?
Yes. As a matter of fact, this morning I interviewed a woman to be my assistant.
Oh, good.
And since the color wheeling system, and I've developed it, because what is TBI, traumatic brain injury? There's no cure for it. You just learn to live with it. And so I learned to live with it in a very creative way. I designed the color wheeling program. I call it color wheeling because I started with the color wheel and I started turning my wheel, in a sense, for success. and in such a way that, see, behind you, you can't see the storyboard.
Oh, yes.
There's the
thank
past,
you. Yeah.
the present, and the future. And there is a toolkit. There's actually, I can create a business plan, a personal plan and a business plan, but it's all done in the color wheel. There's a game board. There's also a coloring book. So it's been really exciting creating. And so the whole idea is to keep the mind working, keep the mind creatively working.
Well, yours certainly is creatively working. But at what point, and now you have this new assistant, and hopefully this is going to lead you to the next stage, which is to take all of these incredible ideas that you have and actually produce and publish them. But before you tell us about that, when did you start doing this program, which is also part of your healing?
When, in terms of, right before I left SBI, I had come up with kind of like the wheel. But I hadn't put all the parts together. I hadn't really put the concept together. I just had kind of like an inkling of, well, to organize my life with 6 colors. That was about where it was at that time.
When did you start the TV program that you're doing now?
Oh, the TV program?
Yeah, when did you start that?
Well, in Toastmasters, the beauty of Toastmasters, they have manuals. And they have a manual on how to speak on television.
Oh, I didn't know that. I took Toastmasters a million years ago.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So how to speak on television. And so I went through that manual, and I thought, how much fun would it be just to see what it's like in a television studio. So I just came over here and I walked in the door, and this wonderful man by the name of Richard James, and he's still around, he just asked, can we help you? And I said, well, I'm curious what happens here, you know, how does it work? And he said, well, as a matter of fact, right now I'm going to be taping the show, so follow me.
Oh, how nice.
So I walked and followed him like a little kid and right into the studio, and I thought, oh, this looks so exciting. So I sat around for a while and nothing was happening, and he finally said, well, our guest didn't show up. And I thought, oh, I'd like to kind of experiment. So there was another guest, and I said, could I interview another guest just to try it out? And so that's what we did. And he said, okay, 30 minutes later, whatever, that's a take.
That's your start. That is the start.
And so at that point, I wanted to help him. The name of his show is Visions Unlimited.
Ah,
and
I've heard of that, yeah.
He is a delightful person. He's helped me. But everybody here at the studio is delightful. It's been a wonderful experience. And had I not opened that door, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Many, many new doors for you.
Yes.
So now, okay, so we've talked about who you were before, and we've talked about this horrible situation that you were in and some of the starting places of where you're going. Let's dream for a moment. Let's dream the future. Where are you going in the future?
I definitely want a product line to incorporate the color wheeling program. I may end up naming it something differently, but it's basically going to be working with 6 colors, with 6 life areas, 6 months. Every 6 months you create. It's going to be basically the same the way I've built it up.
Tell me about the every 6 months part. That's a new concept to me.
Well, we have 12 months in a year, right?
So they tell me.
Okay, so it's very easy just to break it up into 6.
So you give each month we'll have one of the colors. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, you could do it that way if you want, but you can also there's different ways. I'm still working on some of the tiny details.
Okay.
It could be by color, but it's important to maintain a balanced feel in your life. So you have 6. If you have 6 colors, your life incorporates the 6 life areas.
Have you studied feng shui at all? I was just thinking of how that would tie together in some ways.
In some ways, but it's
different.
It's different. I don't want to mix two things. The whole idea is to maintain a simplicity, because to be really effective, life is so complicated. to begin with. And the color works very effectively because the color represents a goal in a sense. So the colors become memory triggers.
Oh, good. Okay.
So whenever I'm looking at you in this particular color, and so in my mind, I'm tweaking the shade or whatever, and I'm seeing colors around me. Each color represents part of my plan.
Okay. So you're going to refine it. Are you going to actually publish, Claire? Are you going to get to a point, and is that what this assistant that you just hired is going to be able to help you do?
She's worked with NSA, National Speakers Association, and I've known her for quite some time. So we kind of basically, we wrote in detail what are the products, what are the services.
Oh, okay.
Now we're going to start pricing. But I'm not sure she's going to be the person just yet, but I think definitely the way our conversation went, definitely I think I need an assistant. The one thing that I lack in is business skills. And it's like, you can only do so much.
Well, that's why you hire experts. You hire experts.
Creative people are, I'm a creative person and I will always be, whether it's because of the head injury or not.
It was before the head injury. I mean, as you were talking, I was just thinking about, these gorgeous, because you know I'm a clothes horse, right? These gorgeous garments that you've made, the costumes, and I'm dying for you to put the wig on, and the wig. And I'm thinking, these things were completed. So the creative process before your injury, the creative process had a start, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
You completed. And to a certain extent, what you've been doing here is designing.
Right.
And as long as I've known you, I've been saying complete. And so I want to see, I want you to dream with me, if you will, about the stages of completion that are going to happen.
Well, that's where it takes the assistant that knows, has the business sense to take, okay, now here's your concept, here's your idea, or whatever. Okay, so where are we going from here? I think that I really have to face that. Of course, I had some interruptions along the way. My dad passed away. Then his estate got involved. I was in charge of his estate, believe it or not. I don't know how. Anyway, it didn't work out very well. But so once that was closed, and then we had a storm in Sunnyvale.
You did?
3 years ago or so.
Okay.
And this giant tree came down on my house.
Oh.
And so for the last 3 years, I've been dealing with insurance claims. And, I'll tell you a funny story. And this is actually true. Shortly before that, I was driving down El Camino and I saw a sign, psychic, your future. And I thought, just go, I hadn't done that for just try it out. So anyway, I remember her telling me, well, in your future, I see a bundle of money coming to you, and a lot of men.
Oh,
well, and I'm thinking, oh, okay.
Okay. I'll take that. Yeah.
So, and she was right. There was an insurance claim for the tree, and there was a lot of men. There were contractors, insurance. So, and I learned through this experience is to start joking and laughing about your experience.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, the whole head injury, the joke on that is, God had a different plan for me, but I wouldn't listen, so he hit me over the head to get my attention. He and I are friends, so he knows that I'm not being abusive.
No. And having talked with you before, I know that you take your religion and your values very, very seriously. We have only a couple of more minutes left before I have to turn it back to you as host, Claire.
Wow.
And so I just want to focus on something. I'm looking around at this incredibly, in some ways complex, in other ways simple, series of work that you've created that enables you to move forward. And you said earlier in our interview, you said something to the effect of wanting to give back. And I am so sure that if you actually publish this thing, if you actually go forward with it, you will be helping so many, many other people. And so Personally, I encourage
That's
you.
my personal goal. That is really my personal goal.
But ever since I've known you, Clare, you keep tweaking it and tweaking it.
Right.
There comes a point, I have to tell you this very funny thing before we close. I was doing a workshop for a bunch of CEOs, and so I asked each one of them, what's your actual job? Not your job title, but what do you actually do? And this absolutely gorgeous French-Canadian man slammed his fist on the desk, and he said, I say no. And I kind of jumped, startled. Conversationally, his job was to freeze the features. His job was to get the product out the door to the customer.
Okay.
And his highly technical gurus, you know, these high-techy guys, they wanted to just do this and then do this and then do this and then do this. At some point, Clare, I beg you, freeze the features so that the world can see what you've got to do.
Yes. Well, the recovery has taken a long time, and it's having to learn having to learn to speak again, having to learn how to use the computer, all these different steps along the way.
Yeah, I don't mean to minimize that. Yeah.
So this, the writing and tweaking or whatever, it's trying it this way, trying it that way. I had to do that, and it just keeps developing and training my brain. And so, you know, that's...
So I want your audience to remember that you are far more than your injury, that you are just this incredibly multi-talented woman. And now I need to turn it back to you, because it is, after all, your program. But thank you for the fun of letting me interview you.
Well, Arlynne, it's been delightful having you. I'm being put on the hot seat. I thought it was going to be frightening, but it wasn't, not at all. So anyway, thank you for joining us. This was really fun. I was really nervous about it, but it was okay. And so this is good for me to share my story and getting used to sharing my story to help other people. So thanks for joining Colorful Journey of Success, and thanks to all the crew. And also, if there's anyone out there that would like to be interviewed here on Colorful Journey of Success, I'd love to talk to you. I'm sure you have a story to tell. The criteria is that you have a success story and you're helping someone else succeed. So do join Colorful Journey of Success. My name is Clare Mullin, producer and host, and you can contact me on my email or my website, but please, Colorful Journey of Success, and have a wonderful life. Really succeed. Success beyond injury. Bye for now.